Hey YouTube, welcome back to Love for Crypto. So I'm just going to do a little video covering what's been happening in the market recently, what my thoughts are on it, and what I think's happening. Again, obviously it's just my opinion and I'm not no fucking gospel preacher, but I've got a very clear understanding in my own personal view of what actually has been going on. So obviously, as you're all probably aware, the cryptocurrency market as a whole took a heavy hit. I wouldn't exactly actually say heavy hit, but I think you got your Bitcoin that's gone from sort of 6,400 to as low as 5,200. It's sort of climbed back up a little bit again to 5,500. And obviously, with Bitcoin being the main peg in the markets, it has took down a lot of the altcoins, even your likes of Ethereum, you know, all the main types, Litecoins, Dash, everything basically has took a fucking massive hit. But as you'll probably notice, XRP seems to have stood on its own. Now, of course, it has been dragged down to a degree. There's been a lot of selling pressure, but it has stood on its own. It's been clearly visible that it can hold its own. And for those people that are sort of wondering why this might be happening, is it people flocking to XRP? Well, I'll give you my philosophy on the matter as a whole. So what we've been seeing is recently, if you go to the XRP charts, you'll see the payment volume that's passing through the ledger. It's been averaging around 200 million, 150 million, I think, during the weeks. Dies down a little bit over the weekend. But as we've been seeing a substantial amount of selling going on, we've actually seen an uptick in the payment ledger volume. You might have seen this as, you know, people have been promoting it around that the payment ledger volume's now exceeded the trade volume. But what a lot of people need to learn and seem to grasp on the matter is basically what it means is when you get something through the payment volume, it is an XRP to XRP transaction. So it could be from the pounds to the euros, it could just be from wallet to wallet and not actually pass through trade volume at all. So the best way of understanding it, if we've got 200 million worth of payment volume as an example, and we are all fully aware that this is trade payment volume, basically utilising through XRapid. So you've got 200 million volume passing through XRP. What you will see is you'll see this being reflected into the trade volume. And when I say that, if you imagine you've got Great British Pounds and you want to convert that into euros and it has to pass through XRP, what you've got is you've got 200 million's worth of buy orders on the pound side, and then you've got obviously the transaction passing through the XRP ledger itself, and then you've got another 200 million on the sell side and the euro. So in total, if you're sending 200 million through XRapid, you're actually going to get double the effect in trade volume. So not only are you getting the payment ledger volume, you're also on top of that getting a buy order and a sell order. So again, as an example, if you've got 200 million payment volume, and we know this is being utilised by XRapid, then in theory the trade volume should be reflected as a double of that, 400 million. Now, if you've been seeing the payment ledger volume at 200 million and the trade volume at 600 million, a good way of sort of understanding what has happened is if you've got 200 million in payment volume utilised through XRapid, and then you have got 600 million in trade volume, you can eliminate 400 million of that trade volume as being utility through XRP and through XRapid. There might be a few people here that might stand up against this video and say, well, XRapid's not live. I just need to obviously make it fully well aware that from the likes of Qualix, for example, I've been live for, you know, a good part of this year. It's probably the best way of putting it. I understand XRapid itself is now gone production sort of ready, if you want to call it that, but obviously you've been having the trials going on in the background, probably spanning over a couple of years now, I'd like to say. So in that regards, yeah, you know, obviously in October the 1st, XRapid have gone live. It's commercially developed, ready for institutions, financial institutions and so forth, to actually use XRapid as a financial bridge asset. So hopefully that's just sort of cleared your haziness up a little bit, if that's the best way of putting it. If you do go to the XRP chart, I mean, if you go to CoinMarketCap, for example, and you look at the volume, you're looking strictly at trade volume. But out of that trade volume, XRapid is actually setting limit orders in order for obviously the functionality of X-Rapid is the best way of putting it. So as we were saying, if you go to the XRP charts, you can break this down even further. You'll see the payment ledger volume, and then you'll see the trade volume that is above it. So again, if you've got 600 million in trade volume, you could probably say 2/3 of that is actually distributed from X-Rapid executions of buy orders and sell orders either side. Now just a little one, if it is confusing you, last night the XRP charts are signifying 600 million in payment volume and only 600 million in trade volume. So you'll probably be asking to yourself now, well, what you've just explained to me doesn't make any sense no more. If you remember at the start of the video, I did say it can be ledger to ledger and actually go through the order books. That's probably why you've seen that substantial amount of payment ledger volume in accordance to the trade volume. So we've got 600 million trade volume, 600 million ledger payment volume. Again, now, obviously, if you was to say 2/3 of the actual trade volume was 600 million, you could say 400 million of the payment ledger volume was utilising through order books, open market buys and sell. You know, buying on the Great British Pound side, you're buying X amount of XRP, it sends it to the next exchange and it sells it out. But what you're probably seeing in that regard is 200 million's worth of payment volume that hasn't passed through the exchanges, if that makes sense. Obviously, I'm just trying to make you understand the machine as best as possible, really. You know, there might be some contradictions being made against this video once I've said this, but as an understanding overall, that's the way to look at it. So obviously, as we were saying earlier on, we've been seeing blood shed across the crypto sphere. You know, Bitcoin's basically stripped down $1,000 of value. You know, if it's at 6,000, it was at around 6,500, I believe, went all the way down to 5.2. He sort of bounced back up down to the 5.5 regions. Obviously, it's weekend now. You probably won't see the amount of volume and sort of selling pressure or buying pressure in that regards, as financial markets are closed for the weekend. Although cryptocurrency markets are 24/7, you still need to bear in mind the operational hours of these financial institutions worldwide. So in regards of Bitcoin having a massive sell-off, and Ethereum and Litecoin and Dash and all these other coins, XRP stood there on its own. It took second spot in a downward trend, which a lot of people might not have really been expecting. I mean, I certainly wasn't expecting this myself, but I'm actually starting to understand the mechanics of what's going on a lot more now, which I'm going to share with you today in this video. If you can imagine, you've got all this immense selling pressure coming through Bitcoin. You know, sell order after sell order after sell order. The buyers have been depleted as the hours are passing by. The price is shooting down as the sellers are trying to undercut each seller so they can get rid of their Bitcoin first. That's sort of the selling pressure that you'll see in the markets, and that's what will drive down the actual price of the asset with that occurrence of what I've just explained to you. Now you're going to be stood there thinking to yourself, well, yeah, Bitcoin's the main peg. Usually that goes down, everything goes down. It usually goes up, it drags everything up. But what is the exception of XRP in this instant that it's held its ground? Well, as I was referring to then, if you've got 600 million in payment volume passing through the ledger, and you've got all this substantial selling pressure happening around the crypto sphere, including XRP, the selling pressure was there for XRP. Yeah, it did drop value. Maybe 6-7%. I think it was at 53 cents. It sort of evened out around 46 cents, 47 cents. Yeah, it's felt the pressure of the selling. We all understand that it has come down, but in comparison to the other coins, it stood on its own. It's decouped to a degree, if you want to say that. And the reason being so is, when you've got all these sell orders being pushed through the order books in the exchanges, you've now got the utilisation of X-Rapid snapping up those sell orders, helping support the selling pressure. Now, of course, the selling pressure was overly immense, if that's the best way of putting it. It was immense selling pressure, but we did have the XRP utility of the actual payment ledger volume passing through. Again, if you remember, 600 million in payment volume. You've got buyers at one end, sellers at the other end. Listen, X-Rapid doesn't care what the value is. It just wants to move the value from A to B. And what we've been seeing is as all this selling pressure has been happening around the crypto sphere, X-Rapid functionality of the buy orders has just been buying up and selling out the other end in 3 seconds, because again, for Xrapid, it doesn't care what the value is. It just wants to be able to exchange the value from A to B. So, as an example, say we've had $1 billion worth of sell orders put through Xrapid, through XRP, through various different exchanges. Bear in mind, if you have got the price differentials in one exchange to another, you will have arbitrage, which will balance itself back out. But if you want to put it into an example, and again, this isn't an exact science, but it's just to give you a bit of an understanding of exactly how it's working. But let's just say, for example, we've got $1 billion sort of sell orders that have happened in XRP on open order book trades. And then obviously, if the full $1 billion was to have sold with no support of buying, then XRP would be a lot lower now, believe me, I can assure you on that, that's a fact. But what have we seen? We've seen XRP hold 46 cents. That's what we have seen. Whilst Bitcoin's gone down to 5.5, that's the low of the year for Bitcoin. You've seen it with Ethereum, you've seen it with all the altcoins, we're all bleeding heavily. But as all the coins are bleeding heavily, including XRP, we've got utility supporting the price value. So if you imagine you've got $1 billion worth of selling happening through XRP, through open order books, we've now got 600 million of payment volume, which is passing through, which is buying up some of those sells and selling them onto the next market across the other side. In theory, supporting the price. Now again, this is just my opinion, this is the way I'm seeing things. Don't hold me to it. I don't want to get a load of fucking abuse from making this video. I'm just trying to give you a visualization of what I'm seeing. And as a matter of fact, you have to ask yourself the question, every time that Bitcoin's gone down this year, what's happened? It's dragged the market with it, it's dragged XRP with it. But in this certain scenario, and bear in mind, we've not seen blood shed for a while. If you remember, we've had a lot of sideways movement on Bitcoin for the past fair few months. We've only just gone live in Xrapid. This is the first time since Xrapid has been in utilization, commercially available, that we've had a big major sell-off in the markets that hasn't affected XRP as much as it would have done if Xrapid wasn't live. So it's just something for you to take away. And bear in mind, I'm not too sure what the payment ledger volume is. It is changing every single day. But we've been averaging 200 million, 250 million through the weeks. I actually looked yesterday and Friday, I seen 600 million in payment volume, but I also seen 600 million in trade volume, which for me is suggesting that we've got ledger to ledger transactions that are passing through order books. Again, don't look at that as a negative. This could be repositioning of liquidity. It could be anything. But we know that Xrapid functions through open order trades. This is the way that it's been commercially been made available. This is why we've got the Ripple preferred exchanges, your Bitrexes, and so forth, throughout the world. The Ripple recommended exchanges, it's to enable for money to move the way that they planned it in Xrapid, is to pass through open order books. And that's what we've been seeing. We've been seeing this immense wave of selling pressure throughout the entire crypto sphere. XRP stood alone. It's took second spot off Ethereum, while Ethereum and Bitcoin have come crashing. Okay, I fairly understand XRP has took losses, but nothing in comparison to what it would have taken if Xrapid wasn't commercially available. So the XRP charts is a very, very genius piece of information that you can use to help understand if we've got, for example, let's move into the future. You could have 10 billion worth of payment volume passing through there. You could eradicate 5 billion ledger to ledger, but we've still got 15 billion that's going through open order book trades, which in theory put the actual trade volume would increase with that to 30 billion. So we're looking for utility here. Utility will be king moving forwards into the future. Bitcoin at the moment may well and truly be the most highly volume traded coin asset out there through speculative use for whatever reason. But remember, Xrapid's live. What has Brad Garlinghouse now said by the end of this year? That one bank will be using XRP in payment flows. And what did Brad Garlinghouse say will happen by the end of next year? Dozens. We can take that as 30, 40, 50 banks. Now remember, the payment ledger volume at the moment is tiny, it's fractional, it's fucking nothing. It really is nothing. In the great scheme of things, it is a speck of sand in the fucking beach. Well, what you got to think about now, we've got remittance flow passing through the ledger comfortably. We've got payments of $50, $100, $200, working families who are working overseas, sending money back to their countries. But let me just tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, when we're talking about banks, and when we're talking about dozens of banks actually using XRP as a financial asset to move value, listen, 200 million volume will look like a dot, like a biological piece of speck of shit underneath a microscope or a telescope, not a telescope, because that's looking into space, but you understand where I'm coming from. We've got remittance flows. We're in kindergarten. I always keep saying this. We're in the playground. We're in nursery. Wherever you are in the world, whatever you want to call it, we are an infant utility asset. We're being ushered into the new world. And look, listen, we've got tiny volume, which is proving to be cost effective. It's saving money across the board. It works. It's decentralized. Customers are happy. We're in nothing but praise for the technology. And we're only getting 2 million an average payment volume passing through that ledger. Now, as an example, you've got the likes of MUFG, Ripple Partners. I always forget of this American bank, but I actually had statistics on it. It's one who's recently signed up with Xcurrent. And on average, just as an average for a major bank, they're settling 150 billion worth of US dollar value each day. Now, put that in comparison to the remittances that we're seeing at the moment. You average 200 million worldwide payments. Just ask yourself, what are 30 to 40 to 50 banks? And just another little philosophy on what I'm saying. Brad Garlinghouse has stated that dozens of banks will use XRP next year. And obviously we've heard about Xcurrent 4.0. We heard about the divergence many months ago. And we've basically heard it now that Xcurrent customers will be just basically as easy to use XRapid as it is using Xcurrent. And we know the Xcurrent customers are extremely happy with the level of service they've received from Ripple. And, we know we've got over 100, 150 maybe production contracts live. Listen, if they're saving money on Xcurrent, I can guarantee you when they've got the potential and the possibility to use XRP as well, they will use it. There's no two ways about it. So if you want to see dozens of banks next year, we could talk about dozens of the current Xcurrent customers maybe potentially using it then, if that makes sense. So yeah, basically that's my take on that today. Just bear in mind, dozens of banks. Listen, we could be talking 50 billion, 100 billion, 150 billion worth of volume every single day. Now, in order for us to sustain that volume, we need a higher value XRP to provide sufficient liquidity around the board. It's a simple mathematical science. It's a fact, what I've just mentioned to you. At the moment, we've got shitty remittances, shitty payments, shitty payment volume, shitty XRP price. I can't elaborate on that any clearer. So I'm trying to let you understand that we've seen a sell-off in the markets. XRP has been supported by its utility of what its product is offering to the market. And by the end of next year, ladies and gentlemen, when we've got dozens of banks, and we're talking high-profile banks here, we know who Ripple customers are. When they start using this as payment flows for their banking transactions and not for remittance payments, we're going to see billions, multiple billions of that ledger volume. I'd like to hazard a guess by the end of next year, we'll have anywhere between 50 to 100 billion in payment volume on average passing through that ledger, which as you all know, which we've all explained in regards of liquidity and how it works. You've got circulating supply. I know it's not 40 billion, that is completely incorrect, but I think we'll probably get to a stage where we will have the exact figure of available XRP on exchanges so we can get that figure precisely, so we can start actually having a true valuation of this asset is the best way of putting it. So once we get to a point where we know the circulating supply, we know the value of XRP, if you want to call it its market cap, even though it's completely, irrelevant, it's wrong the way that it's, it doesn't work for this asset, but regardless, all it basically means is for those circulating and readily available coins, the value has to be high enough in order to provide liquidity for the large amount of volume that will be passing through. And like I said, just hazarding a random guess, don't hold me to it, anywhere between 50 to 100 billion in the ledger payment volume by the end of next year will completely shadow the 200 million that we've seen at the moment, and by doing so it will completely shadow the value of XRP is what we see today. I hope that's a nice little sort of commentary for you, a little bit of understanding of what to look for, why that we've held our own. Is it people transferring out of Bitcoin into XRP? It very well could be, but I can assure you that it's the actual utility that is enabling XRP to stand on its own two legs now. And believe me, if this market starts to sell off, if we can have the substantial volume to support the sell-off, it won't do nothing to XRP. It'll be beautiful, and it's a day that's on the reckoning. It's here. It's on the. We are on the tipping point. We're on the cusp. There's no two ways about it. We've seen the commentary from the Ripple staff, from the customers, and we've seen the surveys, and we know what's coming, ladies and gentlemen. Just keep holding strong, stay positive, think of the bigger picture, and just remember, you are potentially, it's not even potential no more, it's pretty much set in fucking handwriting on all the PDS from central banks around the world, money providers, banks, you fucking name it. They've been in this shit for a long time, and I think XRP has been given the gift to lead the internet of value with the Interledger protocol, and XRP acting as that bridge asset. We're on YouTube, obviously. Again, I always fucking say that, but you're watching us on there, so it's obvious we're on YouTube. But we're also on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. We've started a Telegram group. I'll drop all the descriptions in the link below, so you can follow us on there. The Telegram group has got a great conversation in there. It's actually staying hard to keep up with it now, because every time I log on, there's well over 1,000 messages. And, you know, there's just a lot of like-minded people on there, very intelligent people as well, to say that note. Forward-thinking people, yeah, there is speculation in there. We're in a speculative fucking asset. So, you know, if you want to stick to your facts, then you obviously, there's other places you can go for that. But with Love for Crypto, we like to talk, we like to put everything on the table and attack it from all fronts. Listen, we're not just completely biased on XRP. Listen, I've been trying all fucking year to find a fault or a flaw with it. I just can't. And if somebody can, then please enlighten me, because it'll make me feel better. That is not fucking that's another video. Again, thanks for watching, everyone. Obviously stay tuned for other videos that we do. Scott's been developing a website, eventually going to have the full rollout of that with the shop as well that we've been developing, but we'll keep you up to date with that closer to the time. But again, thanks for all your support. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. See you later.